Howdy Foragers, Brent Povis here. Going to walk you through the 3-player setup and gameplay for Morels Foray. So what you have here is the basic lay of the land before we've completely shuffled. Notice that just like in 2-player, each player is going to start with one of the baskets that we've pulled from the deck. So each player has one basket, that means there are 2 remaining in here. We also have our 2 starting pans. Unlike 2-player, you're going to start with 3 foraging sticks, so you'll have a few more options right out of the gate. And then we've given the golden mushroom here to denote which player is the first player. That will be important come game's end, because in the 3-player variant, everybody gets the same number of turns. Okay, let's take a look at the cards. I've shuffled the day deck that basically would exist for a 2-player game. So the 5th Chanterelle is in there, the one that's marked with the little mushroom in the corner, has gone into the day deck. The Night Chanterelle has come out, and what I have here are all of the cards that are marked with that little 3+ in the corner, denoting that if we're playing a 3 or 4-player game, we need to be adding those. So we'll go ahead and shuffle those in really quick. I'll just kind of slot them in here since we've already shuffled. And then over to the side, we have our Foray expansion cards that we've decided to play with. We're using the Pan's Labyrinth expansion. So those are going to be shuffled in a moment. Before we do that, just like in 2-player, we need to go ahead and deal out those starting hands. And I guess normally I would alternate, but for some reason today I did it this way. And then the 12 cards that are going to form the base of the deck. So we're going to count those off. 12. Okay, so we've got our base there. We know those are from the standard Morels deck. Now the Foray cards are going to get shuffled in to the rest of the deck, and we'll put them on top. All right, so there we go. Our deck is all set. We've got our starting hands. We've got our supply over here. We've decided that we are using the Eureka, so we have one for each of the 3 players ready to go. We decided we're using the Eccentric. The Forest Fire is in there, so there's our extra Morel. The Shiitake Log is also in there, so those are our extra Shiitake should we need them for that. All right, let's go ahead and deal up the Forest. So we're going to put our 8 cards out. Both weather conditions in the opening Forest. That'll be interesting. And then in 3-player, you're going to have something new, not in 2-player, and it's going to be the peak cards. So the next 2 cards of the Forest we'll basically get to look at. And you can figure out where you like to put them, but I usually just set them right down here by the day deck. So these cards are not accessible. They're not part of the Forest, but they will be the next ones to come in. So it just gives us a bit more information to work with, since there's going to be more cycling of cards in 3-player than in 2. Okay, let's go ahead and just walk through a turn example here, because the other key component of 3-player is the existence of the bonus action. What that means is you're going to take your turn from the normal menu of options. You can take a card from the Forest, you can play an empty pan, you can cook, you can sell. But after you do that, so let's say, well, we got a Morel there, that's pretty juicy. So let's say that the first player takes a Morel. He or she, this would have been traded in, this would have been discarded. He or she is then going to decide, do I want to take a bonus action? Now the bonus action cannot be taking more cards from the Forest. It has to be either playing an empty pan, selling, cooking, or using one of the Foray cards that you may have that does not involve taking cards from the Forest or Decay. So in this case, just for the sake of example, let's say that player 1 does want to take the bonus action. So she's going to sell the Lion's Mane, and for that she's going to get 6 foraging sticks. So we'll go ahead and give those to her. Okay, Decay comes off, Forest comes down. The peak cards, it's like they're on the top of the deck. They're going to come in, and then we'll have new peak cards come out. So we should always have the 8-card Forest until we get to the game's end, and the 2 cards visible on the tail there. Okay, let's take a look at player 2. So player 2 is starting this way. We'll say that player 2 is going to take the, we could get snazzy with the weather. Let's just go ahead and keep it simple, and we'll take the fairy ring. So player 2 does not have a bonus action available. There's no sellable duo, there's no cookable trio, there's no empty pan. So no bonus action there. Well, let's go ahead and reset the Forest. We'll come over to player 3. Take a look at player 3's hand. Oh, got another basket there, so 12 card limit. Player 3 is working with this. We'll say that player 3 is interested in the moon perhaps, so pays 1 stick to take the moon. Okay, forest fire. Well, we have the option of the bonus, which we could do. We have this double shiitake, so sure, we'll go ahead and use that bonus action. We'll sell the night shiitake for 4 sticks. We'll then decay. Forest fire tries to decay. It can't. Burns up the decay per the rules of the forest fire. If you're curious about any of the card rules, there's a separate video for that that's called Morels Foray, the cards. So you can check that out. And that video is timestamped, so you can skip right to the card you're interested in. The rainstorm will come over, and then we will refill the forest to 8. Toss out the peak cards, and there you have it. So that's the general game flow of 3 players. Now, once we get to the game's end, let's say we've worked through all of this, and we're now on the final turns of the game here. And let's say that it's like this, and it's the first player's turn. First player takes the shiitake. Now, in 2-player, the last card from the forest is gone, so the game would be over. That's not the case in 3-player. That first player still has the possible bonus action, and then there's none that she can take right now, so we'll go to player 2. Player 2 still takes their turn as normal. So they could take the decay, maybe they've got a few tree years in hand, and then they could take their bonus action of cooking those tree years. Player 3 doesn't have anything to choose from, but he still gets a turn, so he could cook. There wouldn't be any point to selling, but if he has a couple of cooks, he could tack them on here. So he could cook as his turn, and then as his bonus action, he could actually cook again. So you have an opportunity for a little flurry at the end of the game, depending on when it ends. If this had been set up so that it was 3rd player's turn and the 3rd player had taken the shiitake, he would still get the bonus action, but the game would end because all players will have had the same number of turns in this scenario. Okay, guys, that's 3-player. We've really had fun playing 3-player. It's been great having that extra social element of the 3rd player. Some of the tactics of the game change in interesting ways. So we hope you have a great time with it, and I'll be back in just a minute once I reset the table for 4-player. Enjoy.